Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, I am inside and the outside. And today was both, a lot of both. And I am grateful that I spent a lot of time outside. I have this little thing going on, which is reselling. I buy things inexpensively and I sell them, try and make a little profit. It assists me in putting that roof over my head. It's supposed to be chipping away on my trip for September. But in the course of doing this meditation headset, it's like a headset, kind of space agey, and supposed to give you the rivers and birds, and you can download programs. Actually, NASA uses it for training and stuff. Oh, I thought this is pretty good. It was only $15, and they actually sell brand new for $200-300. Used, you can get them for like 125, 150, but I put it up for 70. I put it up for $70, and I was all happy in that, right? But I was thinking today when I went off on my walk, I had a mission today, and my mission today was to get a new mountain bike, not a used one. I was visiting pawn shops to see if I could get something inexpensive. And these bikes were like crazy prices, 5, 6, 7, $800. I even saw like a $1,200 bike for a bicycle in a pawn shop. I thought that I could go to a pawn shop and pick something up for $100 and buy. There was this Walmart bike in there. What do they call them? Super cycles. There was a super cycle in there, but they even wanted 150 for that. And I could buy that bike brand new at Walmart, including taxes at that price. So I just kind of said, can you do any better on this super cycle? Because it was the cheapest bike, that it looked like it had some good tread on the tires at the very least. It looked like my height, right? And so she says, "Oh, you can have it for 100." And she says, there's another pawn shop if you go closer to downtown. It's on Broadway. Um, you can maybe check there to see if they might have some bikes for you. So I thanked her very much. I says, I'll probably be back. I thought it was like the best deal I was going to get. I had already decided I was on a mission. I was going to get a bike. But the whole idea of that was, it's quite a walk, right? To do those routes, to look at pawn shops and stuff. It's another area of the city, and I really like the area because they have these great big old houses, right? And so I went for the walk, and I was so glad that I did, because when I say I explore the inside and the outside, I explored the outside pretty heavy today. I did a lot of walking, a lot of hauling, and but in that I did a lot of work, the inside work today. And I'm mentioning the headset that I bought. It's for meditation specifically. To be all honest, I am not a meditator. My dad meditated twice a day, 20 minutes, half an hour, twice a day, his entire life. And for myself, it's never been my thing. Not like I've never tried it before, but I guess it has something to do with that hypervigilance and always wanting to pay attention, that I was never able to let myself go. Hello, Tammy. To let myself just go, even in my own safe surroundings, right? still was not interesting in just letting go. So meditation has never been my thing, but I love contemplating. Oh my goodness. And especially when I go on my walks. And today, in my little mission to go find a bike today at a good price, I went for a walk. And today was so beautiful outside. Every car decided it was a game about trying to splash me because the snow is finally melting. We're going to have this nice weather for a few days, but that snow was melting, the puddles were going, and people were just right having fun with it. And let's get the little old lady walking down the sidewalk, right? And I did pretty good. I managed to avoid getting splashed on the main drags. Um, on my way for the walk, on my way on my mission, on my way home, it was a totally different story. I got splashed a couple of times, but I dressed for the day and I was just enjoying the day so much, looking at the houses, enjoying the beautiful weather, listening to the birds, going over the bridge over the river and stopping and just looking at the river and seeing the ice is receding from the bank of the river now, so that you can't even get onto the river anymore because it's about 8 or 10 feet melted on the sides of the river now. It was just gorgeous. I just loved it. And I stayed in my head. I actually stopped off. We have this little I guess it's a shop. It's a woke shop. They have books on trees and meditation and grounding and all kinds of neat things. It's just really quite a lovely store. And they have a flower shop in there, but they also have a coffee shop in there. So I stopped off and got a cup of coffee, and they made me a fresh pot of gourmet coffee. It was absolutely amazing. And off I went with my cup of coffee in my head, in contemplation, just letting the world reveal to me, the things that I need to understand in the movement that I'm making. When I say I explore the inside and the outside, a lot of it I do share here. But in the specialties that I work within, it's really, really heavy stuff. And it's not because I'm such an optimistic person, that because I want to keep what I bring to my brand positive, I don't usually, well, very rarely, if at all, bring it to my brand and talk about it. It's for me, it's in for my lessons and in my goals and dreams and affirmations and, in what I think is my own mission, because it comes across my path for a reason, right? And, a couple of times I thought, well, I could do a members only, couldn't I? I could, but the content that I want to bring in there, I think people, just because they care for me, they would show up in there. And it might be triggering, it might be heavy, because I work specifically in dynamic families. And when I say dynamic families, I work with the narcissists, the borderlines, the empaths. I work with even the hybrids within that, because when you are situated in dynamic families, we rub each other, right? And we pick up traits that belong to the other characters in our family. And I am no different in that. But being in this for so long and being in the lessons and sitting in on conversations and taking in different perspectives, whether it's from psychologists or religious leaders or rabbis or spiritualists or atheists, even, right? People who are agnostic, who are just working through it themselves through conversations. We can give insights to each other consistently. I do it all the time. I go, oh wow, I never thought of it that way, right? And we're just in what I think is a light conversation, and then it leads into something else, maybe not any deeper with that person in the moment. But then when I go on my walks, or I'm at my home or at my desk on my own, right? And it's nice and quiet and I have that time and I'm with myself, I do get into it. And I consider myself also hybrid, right? That synthesis of all kinds, right? Because I did live within a family with all different personalities, and I'm not going to be ashamed to say personality disorders, but because we are so different, and because you know in my family, narcissists and empaths were actually created, right? We were, and I believe this to have been going on for generations and generations, to the point, I think, that it was specifically so that we would never wake up, right? Empaths are specifically left in negative states, hypervigilant states, worried states, people pleasing states, and that is heavy. That is really heavy. And it's hard to stay positive. And I credit my father in being able to keep me in a positive outlook on life. Maybe not, he maybe not have had much faith that I was going to wake up to some of these ideas. I think he would have been absolutely thrilled in the end, but there was no expectations, because when you're in that negative state, right, you're not able to be open to anything positive for the most part. But because my dad was pure, right? Because my mother and father were in the extremes of both end, that I picked up things along the way, even though I wasn't woke to any ideas. I still was hopeful about life. I was still optimistic about life. And I found the beauty. I truly did find the beauty in life, even when life was kicking me to the ground, because it's in that attitude. Tomorrow's another day, right? It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And you guys hear me talk about that. Singing in the rain, you know, whistle while you work, smile when you feel like crying. And it is a beautiful, I found the beautiful even within the negative. So, getting back to my conversation, because I don't want to bring it to my brand, right? Um, I go into contemplation, and because I don't meditate, it's not because I'm afraid to meditate. It's just not the way I work. And I'll just attribute it to my dynamic family, to my upbringing. And so I contemplate when I go for my walks. My connection to Mother Nature is solid. And it always has been solid my entire life. That was a gift. Loved Mother Nature in a different way than I did, right? My dad liked fishing. He loved the ocean. He loved being out on the lakes. He loved hunting. And I couldn't even think to, right? Even though I went with him, it was basically just to sit with him. as he was doing his thing, right? And it was just because we enjoyed each other's company. We were both giving and receiving in that positive energy. And I think truly that's what saved me. I think, and I have to say, saved me from myself, saved me from being negative, that the the negative could come in and reside there, like live there, like to be there all the time. Of course, we always, all of us, go through ups and downs and bad times and sad times. But at the same time, if you have that attitude, right, that, it can't last forever. If I'm feeling bad, let's go for a walk, Cindy, right? Let's go on a mission to get yourself a bike. I thought I would be spending 100. I thought it would be a no-brainer. That's why I went to do the pawn shops, because I thought for sure I would be able to find a bike for $100. But they were so expensive. Like I wouldn't even spend that money on a brand new bike. I mean, I'm not saying they weren't nice bikes. They were nice bikes and they would have done me great, but I wasn't willing to spend that kind of money. So after she said, well, there's another pawn shop, go down to Broadway and you can find another pawn shop. Maybe they might have a bike for you. And so I walked to that pawn shop, and I walked into the pawn shop, and they had a few bikes. They might have had maybe 10 bikes sitting there, practically all jumbled on top of each other. You couldn't even see them, and most of them were really, really in bad shape. I did manage to get a bike, you guys. I was so thrilled. And this bike didn't look in the beginning, because whoever brought it in took the seat and shoved it right down to its lowest. And then the handlebars were way up here. It looked like one of those low riders, those Harley Davidsons, right? It looked like one of those. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is what I'm going to get for my money? It was better than that super cycle from Walmart they were asking 150 for. But right, I would have got it for 100. This bike, and you can see I'm doing this because it's sitting here in front of me, and I'm just so thrilled. It's so beautiful, you guys. Once it was dug out of that big mess of bikes, it was absolutely gorgeous. But the thing is, they wanted $250 for it, right? There was some bikes there for 50 bucks or $60, but there were no brakes on them. And I'd have to take it in and have a brake, or the tires were absolutely bald, or it was so ancient. It was like something from the 1920s and not even in collectible state, but all rusted and right. But this bike, once it was pulled out of the mess, I looked at it and I went, oh my goodness, this actually looks pretty nice. $250, so I can't afford $250. I took a Google lens of it. It turns out this bike sells for $800. But the bike is in like new condition, and it has all the accessories. It has a basket from the brand, and the brand is the Electra, and it's the Townie. So if you wanted to Google lens that, you would just be absolutely amazed. And it had a rear view mirror that sticks out onto the handle. These are all accessories. So whoever this bike person who owned this bike, on top of the bike, they bought all the accessories, right? The rear view mirror, the basket, the bottle holder, even an Electra Townie bike bell. And it's got like 7 gears on it. The basket is beautiful and it's removable. So when I go grocery shopping, but it was $250. So I decided to play a little Pawn Stars, right? Being on Facebook and Marketplace and people always haggling with me to bring the prices down, I decided to give it a little shot myself. He looked at me. You could tell I was interested. Right? And he came over. I says, I'm interested in this bike. What's the lowest price? Right? Even if he knocked it down $50, I would have been happy with that. And he looked at it, he looked at the price, and he pulled out his phone. I went, oh my goodness, now he's going to Google Lens it. He's going to see what it's really worth and say, no, you can't have a deal. So I just said, how much? Oh, I showed a little excitement. How much? And he just put his phone down. He didn't check on it. And he says, 180? And I says, would you do 160? Would you do 160? He says, yes, I'll do 160 on this bike. And I went right up there, tap, tap, tap. And I paid for my bike. The front tire didn't have a lot of air on it, so I didn't really want to ride the bike the way that it was. But I needed to test it. But it wasn't a very good test because, like I said, they pushed the bike at a really because it was like a low ride. But I could tell when I Google lensed it that it actually extended up to a proper height. So I wasn't too concerned with it. And it was probably why the bike kind of looked off. Uh, and when they pulled it out for me and everything. And so I got on it. It took me a minute. There was still snow and ice on the ground, but I was able to ride the bike for 2 blocks until I pooped out because it's just too. I was like this, right, riding the bike, and I was so excited. I walked it home. I walked it the rest of the way home. I couldn't stop anywhere. I was going to go and do another thrift store and I was going to do a little bit of grocery shopping and stuff in the area, but I couldn't leave the bike outside otherwise somebody would have stolen it instantly. It would have been gone. But with the accessories and the bike itself, and it's in beautiful condition. I fixed the seat. It took me a while. I had to watch a video on how to raise the seat and everything on this bike. I finally got it. I'm going to redo it again tomorrow because in the process, I got it perfectly aligned with the bar, right? And so I'll do it again tomorrow. But this bike, if you had to buy it brand new, would have been $1,200 with all the accessories on it. And it's in like new condition, you guys. Like it's in new, it even has like mud flaps, those bars that go over the back. It's not a cruiser because they use the thin tire. So it's more like a mountain bike, but it kind of looks like a cruiser the way they set it up with the basket and everything, which is just going to work out perfectly because I'll be able to go for bike rides, you guys. And I can film little videos while I go for bike rides. I can go to the parks now, stay in shape, get a little bit of exercise, have real outings for myself outdoors, right? Now, when I'm riding the bike, unless I'm on the side streets, and even then, it's not really feasible for me. I don't do a lot of contemplation when I'm on the bikes because you have to watch the roads, right? You have to take care of yourself. But I can ride to parks and sit on a park bench, right? I can do these kind of things. And I can just as well contemplate, maybe even better, doing it that way. And the idea was that maybe, right, fall in love with this bike. This is probably the best bike I have ever owned. I'm so grateful. $160, you guys. Like I saved $1,000, over $1,000 I saved on this bike. I didn't have to end up with a Walmart super cycle, right? The idea was for me is to ride it all spring and summer and then to sell it in August, right? And it'll be like saving money, right? The money instead of like piddling away with groceries and thrift store stuff, that I'm actually making an investment, and easily I think I'll be able to get $400 for it. If I keep it nice, I might be able to get $500 for it. But to sell it fast, I think $400 I'll sell it for in August. So I was pretty excited about this bike, this investment. It might, well, at the very least, it'll be an investment in my health. It'll be an investment in having outings, like really good outdoor outings, rather than just exploring the same area, right? I'll be able to go off and do things. And that makes me really, really happy. And, right, a little wheeling and dealing. But I'm telling you, if he Google lens that bike, and I hope he doesn't get in trouble by the boss, right? He was a younger gentleman who sold it to me and agreed for $160. I got it for $160, you guys. I was just absolutely just thrilled in that. But yeah, so I just wanted to share that. But yeah, so I really do work with dynamic families, right? In being able to sort out the mess, whether it was with intent or lots of times, right? We just pass one trauma from one generation to the next generation. And, there has to come a point where somebody down the line has to say, that's it, right? We know exactly what's going on, right? Those emotions are surfacing consistently from one generation to another. And I believe that, right, I was dropped in that family. Maybe even my father was dropped into that family to actually figure out what was going wrong, what the problem was. Because, right, we have an amazing, amazing family. Like, I'm not the only woke person, if you want to call it that, in my family, So that wouldn't have happened if there wasn't an intent to try and make it so that we can carry on down the road, right? So it's important for me to be able to be positive in everything that I do. But even knowing, right, that I was in some heavy stuff today, to be able to have that time this afternoon just to go out and just spend that day for myself, just going for a walk. And like I said, appreciate the breeze and the sky and the melting snow and the birds, and be able to just be in my head and make some of these heavy topics that I have to absorb them into my system, right? Because moving forward, that's it. Like, we're done with that crap, right? And if I stepped into that doo-doo, if my father stepped into that doo-doo, it, right? And who's to say what's going on my mother's side, that these things won't carry on. When we talk about epigenetics, this is the kind of stuff that is just passed down from one generation to the next. And it makes it so that, right, that we don't get to be experiencing life to the fullest, that possibly, right, we're not singing in the rain, we're not enjoying life, it I can only look back a couple of generations, the generations that I had experiences with, but I know those experiences were not pleasant, right, for everybody, for everybody. And it's time to put our foot down, because if that happened to us, that's happened to a lot of people, a lot of people, a lot of good people that want to make some movement for themselves, that see the potential of themselves and just don't understand what's going wrong, why they can't create in their own lives. And you can look at, right, and say to Cindy, well, what do you got going on? Well, I don't know, but I did get a $1,200 bike today for $160, right? That I'm able to put a roof over my head when everything that comes into my life is an indication that I shouldn't be able to do that. That I am able to delve into conversations and contemplation and be able to resolve my own issues and not be a broken empath, that I can be a healed empath, right? That possibly my father had been broken, possibly my mother was a failed or broken empath herself. Maybe my father was a failed narcissist. He just couldn't do it because his heart was just so full, right? So we can't beat each other up, right? We have to be able to bring in some forgiveness and some resolution and some answers for the next generations moving forward, whether that's in my bloodline or somebody else's bloodline. Because if it happened to us, it's happened to others. And there's something terribly wrong in that. And if we're looking to heal the world, we definitely have to heal ourselves first. And that's an honest truth. But we have to enjoy what we're doing, right? So when it does get heavy, we have to connect. That's why we have hobbies, and that's why we have interests. This is why we involve ourselves in the things that we love within our families, right? But sometimes our families don't treat us well, and that is a truth. And it's, again, whether it's by intent or whether it's accidentally. I think in the end, right, nobody wants to step in doo doo knowing that somewhere's down the line somebody's going to find out what's going on. So in the end, I think it's all a mistake. I think it's all not misunderstandings, it's wrong understandings, right? That's what it is. And it's in that what we were talking about yesterday about being willing, right? Being open to sit in different perspectives and different understandings, to learn from people that are truly different from us, because, right, we know what's in our household, we know what's in our neighborhood, in our school classes, and in our cities, but how far are we actually expanding out there, right? We can't even uh get to know properly our neighbors across the oceans on the other side of the world. And because they're so different, because they don't live the way we live or move the way we move, or, right, even have the same values sometimes. And that's a big problem, I think, because we are this close all over the world. Like, and somebody across the other side of the world could be sitting here with me and having this conversation. But unless we're willing to learn off of each other, unless we're willing to look at ways to better get along with each other, we're never going to get along with each other. And I think that's a big part of what's going on right now, is because whoever or whatever says, that's it, that's enough, you guys. We're moving into the next stage of evolution, and we're leaving that in the past. We're not Neanderthals anymore, right? We are not Romans. We're not Persian conquerors. We are not hierarchy, right? The small man has a voice. Small woman has a voice if they want to, if they choose to, and if they can do it in a way that we're not disrespecting and standing on other people's toes and rubbing each other badly and creating broken human beings, right? And that's a terrible thing, broken human beings. Okay, you guys, I think I'm just going to leave it at that. Otherwise, I'm going to have to start a members only, right? But this is what I do. I come in, I keep it positive. We have the 54 powerful words. I come in, talk about my day, mix in a little bit of the lessons here and there, a little bit of the insights, a little things that come across my path, and it makes for great content. But it is much deeper in that. And when you look out at the world and say, look at all the hairy scary, look at all the crazy, look at all the bad people and all the bad things going on, you have to appreciate also that sometimes behind the scenes, there's a lot of good going on too. And that's part of being the example for others, right? So if it needs to be said, it needs to be said. It needs to be expressed, because a lot of people, they don't recognize that there's amazing out there. I come across amazing all the time, right? And giving credit where credit is due. Oh my goodness, right? I'd like to do a lot more of it than I do, but because we do live in crazy town, right? And not everybody understands a lot of the topics that I delve into, that I wouldn't want anybody hurt by that. You know what I mean? You know, they can't, right? Can't get at me. So what are we going to do? We're going to get at them, because, that's where she's getting her information from. That's who she's coming across paths. And that becomes part of the mess too, right? Okay, you guys, I'm just coming to comment here for a moment, say hi. Happy for you, Cindy, on your bike. I'm so happy. I was ready for a bit of good to come into my life, a little bit of abundance, and also to be able to practice my craft in the wheeling and the dealing. People are always trying to get a good deal off of me. I am just super excited. I almost feel a little bit guilty, but you know what? I'm working on the guilt and shame. So I'm going to say, you snooze, you lose. I got an amazing deal. And you know what, you guys? I'm gonna wheel it out here just so for a second, just so you guys can see what an amazing deal that I got on it. Oh, did you hear my little bike bell? Whoopsie. I don't know why I get these ideas in my head, but here we go. I don't want to knock any of my ornaments down, but here we go, you guys. This is my bike. I'm going to just lift it up too, because it's pretty lightweight. Look at it. It's like brand new, you guys. It's like brand new. Gears, leather handles, leather seat, bells, basket for when I go grocery shopping, or I could throw my backpack in there, or I could hook my camera up there. It's got a for my bottle. It even has like, look at this. Can you see? Can you see this? This is my rear view camera. These are all extra accessories that you have to buy for this bike, and it's all on brand. It's all from Townie. Yeah, take a look at it. Like I got such a score on this bike. I'm so absolutely thrilled, and I can't wait to go for a real bike ride. Now, I went and I purchased it today specifically because there's still snow on the ground, right? There's still snow on the ground, and I thought, well, as soon as the snow's gone, there's no way I'm going to be able to get a deal on a bike, right? So I thought today, because it was nice outside, everything's starting to melt. It went to like +4 Celsius. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but it went to +4 Celsius today. It was beautiful outside. Like I said, even the river is cracking up, and I'll have to keep an eye on it because I always like to go down to the river when the ice starts to flow and everything. I don't think we're going to flood this year. We did get a lot of snow, but we've had winters where we've had more snow. And because we have a floodway around the entire city, that they'll open up if the water gets too high. So we'll probably be pretty good on that. Okay, sip of my coffee. And then on top of that, after I spent like an hour working on the seat of the bike because I wasn't quite sure how to do it. And then I Googled it, and then they showed me a video, and then I played with it and I couldn't get it right. And then I finally got it right. I finally got it right. And I was so excited. Right. I'm gonna go for a walk and see if I can get a bike lock for it. I thought I had a chain in my walk-in closet. I tore my closet apart looking for the chain, and I couldn't find the chain for it. But I bought a paddle lock, right? I bought a paddle lock. So I only need a chain for it, but I don't even know if I want to use a chain because it's such a nice bike. It's like in brand new condition. So yeah, I'm happy for that, So, and we should be happy for other people, and that's something that we don't do enough of, right? Because when we're not feeling good, it's really hard, right? To It's not to like smudge something in somebody's face because you don't know what kind of trouble they had maybe even the week before, that you don't know somebody's troubles. So when anything wonderful happens for them, you have to be happy for that. But I've had a week of happy, right? My optometrist phoned me. My contact lenses are in. I tried to phone them back, but I'll phone again tomorrow. I'll just tell them I'll pick them up when my glasses are ready to, because my glasses shouldn't take another week maybe, and then my glasses will be ready too. And then I got my bike, and I've had a couple of people calling me for that meditation headset. So that was a good thing because that $15 is still a lot. And I didn't want something sticking around my house that I wasn't going to use if I didn't sell it, right? Might incentivize me, right? Is that the word? Incentivize me to try them on and give meditation another shot. And I will periodically. But in this moment, I'm a contemplator, right? I am a thinker. There's actually a name for the kind of thinking that I do because I do a lot of synthesis. I do a lot of different ideas, a lot of different perspectives. And in working through all of that, I come up with my own ideas and my own perspectives, and I feel the lead into that. I understand things come across my path for a reason, right? I understand that. And wouldn't it be amazing if I have this bike all summer long, and then in August, if I've had enough with the bike, then I can sell it, and then it's like $400 or $500 that I'm going to get for the bike in August, and I only paid $160 for it, and that's just all money that will go towards my September trip. It just work. It'll just work out perfectly. That's the idea, anyway. It doesn't mean that's the way it's going to happen. Because, like I said, life is ups and downs, and we have to appreciate when the ups come up because we know eventually, right, that that roller coaster ride is going to go down too. That's just life, right? And so enjoy your life to the as much as you can, even in the stinky, the bad things that come across their paths, right? There's no shame in smiling in that, right? Reminiscing of a good story at a funeral or something and smiling and even giggling, and right, because we're supposed to. That helps. It helps to alleviate, and also at the same time it stops the, you know, when the negative comes in, it just gets heavier and heavier and heavier. And it's hard to crawl out of a bucket like that, isn't it? Right? We go into those noisy me's, and we think there's no joy ever going to come. But we got to realize you got to search out that joy for yourself. Like I said, that's why we have interests and hobbies, and it doesn't matter what it is, right? And I was going to say too, even though my dad was a meditator, he meditated twice a day. My dad was also a contemplator. Also, he used to go for walks, and he also liked to do things like um, mow the grass, or he would sit on the porch and have conversations, or he would even just wash dishes and just be by himself. My dad just loved to wash dishes. It would take him forever, but he was in contemplation. We didn't understand that, but we just thought wash dishes. But in fact, he was in contemplation, and that's what kept his soul, his other parts of him content and feeling to accomplish in the moment, right? And my dad doubled his life than what the doctors told him he was going to live. He wasn't even supposed to live long enough to even have children and a family and a career. And he got to do that all, right? He still passed away nowadays, right? At 47, my dad passed away. It's still young, but he wasn't even supposed to get in out of his 20s, right? He wasn't even supposed to get out of his 20s. And he did that himself. He found a way, and it was most definitely his positive attitude that got him through that. But not only that, his positive attitude got me out. And that's the truth, right? I am my father's daughter. Thank goodness, right? I wouldn't be sitting here right this moment unless I was. Okay, you guys, let's grab a card, go into it for a couple of minutes. Uh, that's a very, very nice bike there, Cindy, that you got there. That's a great find there. Way to go. I love to tell others that I'm happy for them when they get or do things. Amazing because, right, you get what you give, right? And I hope something wonderful comes into your life. What word do we have today? Risk, right? Oh my goodness. Well, it kind of reflects a little bit on my day because I could have stopped at that first pawn shop and I could have bought that super cycle, right? Because I was on a mission. I was getting a bike and I didn't see any good prices. Even when I went to that second thrift pawn shop and looked at the bikes, they all looked like junk. And this one was just kind of buried and covered in all kinds of crappy bikes. And I didn't recognize what an amazing bike it was until I pulled it out of the. I didn't pull it out. One of the guys pulled it out for me, pulled it out of the pile, and then I Google lensed it and went, "Oh, can I swing a deal on this one? There's no way I can spend $250 on a bike. This is what my thinking is. Get it down to 200, right? I have the 200. I'll pay the extra $100, right? Because the other one was going to be $100. She said I could have it for 100. I says, this is much better than the first one I looked at. Then when he said 180, and then I said 160, and he said okay, I was just thrilled. But I took a risk there, didn't I? You know, I could have bought that first bike and not even seen this one. And I wouldn't have had a story to tell. And I wouldn't have had these emotions that I have right now. I might have even said, oh, Cindy, couldn't you wait and take a bus down to Walmart and just buy a new one instead of just being on a mission today and getting on a bike? But that's what the mission was. The mission was to get this bike that I didn't even know that was coming into my life today. Oh, we were talking about willingness too. So let's look at this. Risk is the willingness to lose everything in the pursuit of something, right? Risk everything. Somebody else could have come in and bought that bike. It was the whole idea was for me to get the bike on this nice day before the snow melted and everybody and their dog wanted a new bike. And you can be guaranteed this would have been one of the very first bikes to grab because even at $250, that was a crazy, crazy score. They didn't know what they had there. They definitely didn't know what they had there, but I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for it, and I'm smiling about it, and I'm feeling good about it, and uh, and I don't have to feel bad that I spent a lot of money because, like I said, in August I can sell it for oh my goodness, three times maybe what I paid. And wouldn't that be absolutely amazing to apply that to my trip? Or, but like I said, maybe I'll fall in love with the bike because I'm in love with it already. I had a good day today, you guys, inside and outside. Okay, you guys. Risk is the willingness to lose everything in the pursuit of something, right? I could have lost big, not just in that bike, but in my not going out today and then having these heavy topics on my mind and have nowheres to disperse in those other things that keep me human, right? Understanding it's a synthesis. It's a synthesis of Cindy and those other parts of me. And I think those other parts of me are pretty proud of me today, too. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.